Lily raised her hand and pointed at Mia, looking straight ahead at Michael. A bait begins. He made the first move. Ink is cool, dangling in front of my eyes every day. Very eyesore. Brother Wan said that my sister is a red-pink skull. Little do you know that what you are showing off is just a dead leaf. You look up at her. I don't believe you have empty eyes. Michael moves lightly. Look at Mia with plain eyes. There is no wave in the eyes. I will watch her 10 breaths here. See if my eyes are empty. Brother Wang, you blush, snort. Father Luo, there's no need to provoke me. I am in a stable mood. No rhythm. Why are you blushing? Opposite. Mia gritted her teeth. There are blue veins popping up on the forehead. Much full in. Call her a pink dice in front of her face. You can't see my damn face. Her hand holding the sword could hardly be held back anymore. He rushed forward and grabbed Michael's ears. He pulled me and walked outside. Since your master won't come to redeem you, just go work for me. Make money to pay off debt. Staying at my place every day and eating for free. How dare you arrange me? I'm just giving you face. Behind. And he showed a gloating smile. He loses every argument to Michael. As expected, I am still very good at it. Sister, wait for me. I'm with you. And Michael was forcibly taken to the Red Maple Valley Mission Hall. There are many disciples in the temple. Everyone cast curious glances at him. You must know that Mia, this beautiful girl from heaven, usually speaks in a charming manner, full of temptation, but never get close to men. Now it's holding Michael's hand. Looks very intimate. In many eyes, Michael felt a few waves of hostility. They must all be Mia's admirers. He looked along the crowd. The one with the strongest cultivation is a red-haired man, already reached the peak of golden elixir, wearing a fiery red robe. The temperance is quite domineering. My eyes are extremely gloomy at the moment. Brother, don't look at me like this. Miss Mia and I are extremely innocent. She only held my hand because I owed her money. She was worried that I would run away. And Michael knows that jealousy comes from the heart. The truth that beauty brings disaster. I have to explain it to everyone I pass by. Avoid misunderstandings. Bring unnecessary trouble to yourself. Mia, who was walking in front, suddenly turned back. Step on Michael's and step hard. Shut up. The sect's mission office is an important source of the sect's economy. Contains bounty missions from all over the world. Among them are catching monsters and catching monsters. If there are evil cultivators, destroy them. There is a follow-up investigation. There are also battlefield battles. Mia directly found a task with the highest pay. She knows Michael's strength. The tasks performed by these disciples are basically not dangerous to him. Michael craned his neck and looked at the mission scroll. A special mission. Outing the second Prince of Qin. See the task content. Michael's pupils shrink. Aiken Prince. Jingran looks for someone from the immortal sect to protect him. Mia looked at the reward of 100. Tyro low-grade spiritual stones. Eyes light up. This thing is very exciting. Get your money back in one go. And this is a multiplayer mission. Bring Lily and Michael and you can make a lot of money. Elder, was this task? I answered. At this time, the red-haired man in the crowd came forward. Junior sister Mia, can you take one with me? Mia eyebrow lightening. The visitor's name is Wuchen Fei. His strength ranks among the top 10 in the Red Maple Valley. This person has joined. She was worried that there would be disputes when sharing the money. Brother Hua, I brought Lily and Wan Dao Shan, my junior brother, with me on this mission. They all have a share in settling the spiritual stones. Wuchen Fei waved his hand. Looks very atmospheric. No problem. Hua has no shortage of spiritual stones. I just want to go out and practice. As he spoke, he turned around, looking at Michael with a somewhat gloomy look. Lily at the back poked Michael's back. There's bird in his ear. You see, the red and pink skull in your eyes, in the eyes of others. It is a precious jade. Anyone with a discerning eye can see what Wuchen Fei is thinking. But there is a golden elixir peak and we go on a mission together. How's paying any money? Mia didn't refuse. The four of them came to the mountain gate. Wuchen Fei raised his hand and offered a flying boat, with a proud look on his face. The junior sister. This boat was produced by the great elder of the refining pavilion, traveling 1,000 miles a day. It only takes 3 days from here to the imperial city of Qin. As he spoke, he glanced at Michael. The latter has no strange color in his eyes. What kind of flying boat has he never seen before? At that time, he went to Biayuan with his father. At that time, the flying boat passed by and blocked the sky and the sun. There isn't a single spaceship out there that's worse than his. That's all the heritage of the Qin dynasty. It's a pity. They were all destroyed in Biayuan during the First World War. Everyone got on the flying boat. Only Michael is still standing there. He looked at Mia with a somewhat embarrassed expression. Can I not go? You want to default on your debt? No, I'm afraid I can't help but take action. Defeated the Kim dynasty. Which I saw the two people's intimate behavior. A murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Feeling extremely unhappy. Immortal, but great. Dare to follow the proud daughter of the Red Maple Valley. What else can you say about leveling the Kim dynasty? How brave do you have to say such a thing? He snorted coldly and activated the formation. The fine bolt flies away like a stream of light. Michael's eyes are deep. The sword energy is simulated to continuously suppress the sword energy of the Wuxian sword in the body. What's more important is to suppress the 7 holes in the Wuxian sword. These 7 holes are constantly flowing like vortices, constantly absorbing spiritual energy. Now the man and the sword are one. If he continues to absorb it, he will break for the key training stage. But this also means that the sword energy emitted by the Wuxian sword will be even more powerful. He may not be able to suppress it. His curious eyes kept looking at Michael. Oh, it's young. It cost me 130 Tyra spiritual stones to buy you medicine before. After this order is completed, there are still 30, but 0 left. When the time comes, you can wash and fold the quilt for me. How about paying it off even if you resist sweeping the courtyard for a year? Lord Wisdom pulls his ears. Pretend not to hear. Still cleaning the courtyard. He has been on Jianfeng for 8 years. I haven't even touched a broom once. Seeing Michael ignoring me, Mia stamped her foot angrily, turned around and went back to the cabin. Chen Fei, who was controlling the spacecraft at the side, saw that Mia and Lily were not there. A cruel smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He's wagging his fingers. A light red sword energy quietly sank into Michael's head. And Michael, who was closing his eyes in deep thought, suddenly opened his eyes, turning his head suddenly to look at Chen Fei. So brave. Ran took action against him before he even reached the Qin Imperial City. Are you looking for death? Chen Fei looked stunned. He didn't expect that Immortal would notice the sword energy, and he dared to threaten him verbally. Boy, don't think there is asylum in Mia. You can be arrogant in front of me. Cold light sword sound. Michael drew his sword directly. He has never been good at words, but good sword. In the cabin, Mia and Lily heard the quarrel outside and ran out quickly. Chen Fei, how are you doing? Hear Mia's question. Chen Fei looked confused. Now Michael is pointing a sword at his nose. Question me as soon as you come out. Is this reasonable? Junior Sister Mia. Lily shook her head and sighed. Throat. Beauty is a disaster. Mia turned back and glared at him. Turn around and look at Michael. What's going on? Michael's face is still cold, looking directly at Chen Fei. I want to kill him. Die. Hear Michael's words. Chen Fei only thought it was funny. He couldn't help laughing out loud. You want to kill me? Are you trying to laugh me to death? Oh, just with this sword in your hand. Michael loosens his hand. A cold light fell straight into the ship's deck. He took a step forward and pointed with his index finger. And sword. Until you two. And Mia saw Michael taking action. She rushed forward and hugged him. She brought Chen Fei out. And the ugly opponent is the grandson of the great elder of Reed Maple Valley. If you die here, there will be endless troubles. It was her hug like this. The index finger pointed by Michael is slightly offset. A pure sword light flashed past Chen Fei's ear. Amidst the loud rumbling, a mountain peak in the distance was hit and collapsed. Smoke and dust rise all over the sky. A huge python twisted and fled into the distance. It was accidentally hit in the abdomen. Looking extremely panicked at this time, a few strands of red hair fell from Chen Fei's temples. He stiffly turned his head to look at the giant python hurriedly running away in the distance. That's a big demon comparable to the nascent soul realm. Plop. His legs gave way and he knelt down on the board of the boat. There is cold sweat dripping from the forehead. If Mia hadn't stopped me just now, that sword was enough to blow his head off. Michael took 2 steps forward again, and the fingertips touched Chen Fei's forehead. The cold touch frightened the latter. No, don't kill me. I was wrong. Mia rushed forward and hugged Michael again. Looks a little panicked. You had him go once. I can't explain to the sect if you killed him. A faint fragrance comes. Feel the softness behind you. Michael looked at Mia's hair floating in the air and slowly lowered his fingers. Tug me a little longer. His voice is very light, but it made Mia's delicate body tremble. Lily hurriedly ran forward and pulled Chen Fei up. He was also frightened by that sword, although Mia had always told him that Michael was very strong. But this is too strong. Senior brother, don't be an eyesore here. Follow me back to the cabin first. Chen Fei's legs were still shaking when he was pulled on. The ground is all wet. I just feel like my body is a little bit out of control. The cultivation level at the peak of Dan Formation looks so ridiculous at this time. As the two left, Mia hugs Michael from behind. The body gradually becomes softer. She feels the other person's body temperature. A large blush appears on the face. Put your cheek against Michael's back. Close your eyes gently. It turns out that a person with such a cold temperament. My body feels inexplicably warm. Michael turned his head and looked at Mia's flowing hair beside him. Ninth sword. Enlightenment. Let's name this sword after Mia. Ninth sword. Mia. As Michael's words fall, behind him, Mia quickly turned around and ran away to the cabin. It was still tender at the last moment. I still have infinite fantasies in my heart. At this moment, she seemed to feel that Michael wanted to sacrifice her as a sword. Thinking of the fate of evil cultivator Logan, her spine was pulled out like a sword. At this moment, she just felt hopeless. Michael raised his arm and grabbed it backwards. Fingers brushed through Mia's hair, waving in the air. Ouch. He only feels the pain in her scalp. A few strands of her long hair were pulled off by Michael. The sound of sharp swords piercing the air sounded. Those long strands of hair quickly flew towards the giant python in the distance. Long and flexible hair, bending on, swimming in the air. The giant python senses danger from behind. Swing your tail and pump it into the air. Countless huge trees were cut down in half. The hair is twisted and twisted, almost climbing up the body of the giant snake. Looking at the giant python struggling and twisting on the ground, he chuckled. He raised his hands and clasped his fingers lightly. Chianjayu. Mia, the struggling giant snake suddenly stopped twisting. Patience, old great demon. Michael frowned. This sword is not perfect. A little, sagittal. He turned to look at Mia. The latter quickly took 2 steps back. Hold your long hair tightly in your hands. Not anymore. John will be bold again. Flying boat over the mountains and forests. There are some villages ahead, but farther away is a city. This is the territory directly under the jurisdiction of Dakian. Everything looks prosperous. Michael looked at this like a prosperous country. Swallow a thumb-sized piece of snake gall into your mouth. Snake gall is bitter, but it can repair his broken body. There are monks taking off from the city ahead. The visitor presents the document. He throws Jinshu out. He needs to verify the identities of the 4 people on the boat one by one. Although all the blessed lands for cultivating immortals belong to the realm of Dakian, the dynasty was very guarded against these sects. The man glanced at Mia and others, finally fell on Michael's face. Ando Shui and Michael. Oh, don't know. Michael's cold voice sounded. The man's upright body trembled slightly. He suddenly knelt down on one knee, with surprise in eyes. Beijing from Tian's Huang City. Meet the King of Zenbi. Michael's expression flashed back to memories. King of Zenbi. I haven't heard this title for a long time. This title originally belonged to his eldest brother. Later, my eldest brother died in battle with Shuandashan, inherited by Dad. Dad died in battle with Kitahara. Now you reached yourself. A title in other families can be hereditary for several generations. A throne for your own family. Rotate between 2 generations. It's really funny. The Emperor's uncle really knows how to behave. I have been in Kingshan for 8 years. Jing Ran still kept his throne for me. Li Jing lowered his head. Can't look Michael in the eyes. At that time, the royal power of Zenbi was overwhelming. Now I'm afraid that my throne is just a showpiece. You are an old member of the Zenbi army. Li Jing nodded respectfully. During the northern expedition, he was subordinate to the commander of the 3rd Battalion of the 3rd Battalion of the 3rd Army. Okay, back off. How many people successfully entered the customs? But this time, the eyes of the people on the ship when they looked at Michael changed. Mia has scrutiny in her eyes. BAQ in Zenbi King. Although he is a left-behind King of Zenbi. But can you really afford to pay back your 30 Euro spiritual stones? But this time she really guessed it right. Michael has 1 million spirit stones that he got from Joshua. As for Huachen Fi, this time, the eyes he looked at Michael were even more horrified. He never thought that a mere mortal. The background is so complicated. Damn it, out on the pirate ship, and he doesn't think so much. He happily approached Michael. Looks like an old hat. By the way, oh my god, King of Zenbi, is that a huge fiefdom? Of course, the fiefdom of King Zenbi stretches for thousands of miles. I'm sure you passed at Yonlang Mountain. Earliest face was shocked. How big must this be? Xinyu Pass is the border pass of Kan Dynasty against Biayuan. Hanlang Mountain is the holy mountain of Biayuan Demon Cultivator. Thinking of this, he suddenly felt something was wrong. I is the fiefdom of King Zenbi in another country. Michael grinned. The tradition of King Zenbi. All areas not included in the territory of Dakin belong to the fiefdom of Zenbi King. Lily pouted, secretly thinking that Michael is lying to himself again. But Mia next to him didn't speak. When I heard about the scenery of Zenbi King in those days, the Emperor sealed off thousands of cities in his northern territory. And King Zenbi refused. He arrogantly opened his mouth in the court and asked for help from all corners of the world outside of Dakin. The Emperor gave an imperial edict. This is incredible. From then on, the King Zenbi began to conquer the world. Several neighboring countries, 100,000 mountains, the IU on West Desert. It wherever you go. At that time, the King of Zenbi was still Michael's eldest brother. Meanwhile, it is said that the cultivation level reaches the sky. Invincible. Think of this. She couldn't help but secretly glance at Michael. No wonder this guy has such a bad temper. How authorship runs in the family. A flying boat went straight to the Imperial City. 2 days passed, in the blink of an eye. On the distant mountains, a huge city appears. The city is supported by mountains, like a huge dragon surrounding the city and protecting it. A series of giant pillars were built on the top of the mountains. This is the protective formation of Qin Imperial City. Because Q in Huancheng is not allowed to fly, the flying boat was forced to stop just after it reached the bottom of the mountain range. Between ridges, rows of stone stairs staggering down. If you want to enter the city, you must first climb the mountain. Michael's scalp felt numb when he looked at the stone staircase. He is immortal. I'm afraid I'll die from exhaustion on this stone staircase. Mia, you carry me up. He pointed at her nose in confusion. I do grown men here. She's just a weak woman. How do you carry it yourself? Michael looked at Lily and to Chen with disgust. Lily is young mind. He jumps in one step. My body can't stand his torment. As for Chen this guy peed his pants. I'll give you the spirit's tone back. He squatted in front of Michael angrily. As expected, the uncles are all the ones who owe money. Isn't it natural to return her spiritual stone? Now Jingran is using it to threaten her. There is nothing good about men, especially this sick young man. It's so deep in my bones. Michael laid gently on Mia's back. He looks calm. Feel the softness of a woman. The day you carry me up the mountain, one day I will take you to ascend. Mia doesn't miss her. Is your ascension serious? No one has ascended in this continent for thousands of years. I really don't know where this little mortal gets his confidence, although the stone steps are long. But it doesn't matter to practitioners. After half an hour, everyone climbed to the top of the mountain. A woman wearing a red armor has already been waiting here. Are you fellow Taoists from Red Maple Valley? Mia takes out the mission scroll. A woman took it and inspected it briefly before putting it away. Why is there still immortal? Michael's brows are lightened cheerful. The cold light sword in his hand suddenly popped out an inch. A red-armored woman has a few strands of black hair falling down. You don't have to know me, but you have to know the sword in my hand. The woman with red armor shrank her eyes. I quickly greet him with clasped fists. Little girl, Nathan. That's seniors. He naturally knows the cold light sword, but even tried to grab this sword. He lost all his shoes. Who doesn't know this? Now the cold light sword appears in the hands of this young man. How could the other party be ordinary? Well, we're led into the city. A second prince does not live in the palace, but a private residence near the palace. Looks magnificent, antique, extremely luxurious inside. Suburban and flowing water rockery, covering a very large area. Everyone, please rest here today. I will arrange tasks for you tomorrow morning. After Michael entered the mansion garden, he kept staring at the rockery in a daze. Mia is following Michael. Must leave him in a daze. The sun sets in the west. The slanting shadows of the mountains in the distance did not cover the two figures. Picturesque beauty. Looks inexplicably harmonious. The two figures never moved at all. Like an old monk sitting still. And he put a hand on Chen Fi's shoulder, holding a toothpick in the corner of his mouth. Do you think my sister really has a crush on this guy? Don't say it. It looks like a pretty good match. How dare Chen Fi replied. Now he just hopes to finish this mission and go home quickly. The outside world is so scary. And Michael didn't look away from the rockery until it got dark. He reluctantly took off the storage bag on his waist and threw it to Mia. 30,000 spiritual stones. A lot of one. Mia snorted coldly. He took the storage bag and counted it again and again. After confirming that the quantity is correct, he turned around and left. Michael stood up and walked outside the house. Now that we have come to the Imperial City, he naturally wants to visit Zenbi Palace. Follow Michael out. There is a figure flashing in the dark, Callie outside the mansion. He glanced casually. There is no wave in my heart. A stance not worth taking too seriously. Inside the mansion, in the lobby, the second Prince Liam walked anxiously. Although we are in the Imperial City, but he doesn't feel any sense of security at all. Damn it. Added reinforcements from Maple Valley arrive. It's getting more and more lively outside the door. I give up the fight for the throne. Are you still unwilling to let me go? He looks miserable. Looking quite mild. I always feel like my death is coming. Just then, he got rushed in. Your Highness. I don't know why. There were suddenly fewer people watching outside the door. How far have you gone? The guard has a sad face. Said slowly, at least 9 floors. At the same time, a third prince. who lives in Wanshan City on Wando Mountain, is living an extremely comfortable life. His table is filled with delicacies from mountains and seas. Nectar and jade dew. There are two fairies beside the table playing the harp and reciting poems. So uncomfortable. But his mind is not on these beauties and delicacies. He sits by the window. My eyes look towards the distant green mountains from time to time. At this time, the door was suddenly pushed open. A guard rushed into the house. Your Highness. News from the Imperial City. A Michael appeared in the Imperial City. The wine glass dropped from Joseph's hand. He turned around to Dully and looked at the guard. What did you say? He angrily overturned the food on the table. My arms trembled with anger. This king has been waiting for him here for half a month. Half a month. You tell me now that he has arrived in the Imperial City. Asshole. Waste. Return to the Imperial City. This time, the king will ask his father for permission to marry Olivia. And he smashed the two marriage documents on his face. Imperial City. Of course Michael doesn't know what's going on in Wangshan City. He had already arrived at Zenbi Palace at this time. Open the door. There have been a lot of changes in the engineering inside. It's no longer what it used to be. Who are you? Young master. The old housekeeper who was cleaning the courtyard straightened his waist. Michael glanced at this huge NBI palace. There seems to be no one else treating him. There is only such an old housekeeper guarding the house. Nanbo, where is my mother? The old butler walked forward, slightly trembling. Lion looked at Michael carefully. There are tears in your eyes. 8 years ago, the battle report from the Ayuan came. And Madam then moved back to the eldest princess's mansion. Later, I heard that you were rescued by Wando Shein. The old slave also went to persuade Madam to take you back. But the lady won't allow it. At that time, all the guests and staff of the royal palace were dismissed by my wife. The old slave is also powerless. It would be safer for you to stay in Wando Shein. Michael was not surprised by what Uncle Nan said. The tree falls over the lake and the sun scatters. This is normal. He has disagreed with the development policy of Zenbi Palace since he was a child. What kind of recruitment of staff? Make friends with guests. Control millions of soldiers. Map the world. It's all bullshit. Ask him to say. It is better to coerce than to make friends. Holding 1,000,000 soldiers is not as good as holding a sword in your hand. Go straight to the ancestral hall. Michael looked at the memorial tablet in the temple. The memorial tablets of my father and brother inside are already covered with dust. Michael's fingers touched the name on his father's tablet. Dijonde? Anbo. Please, inform Ava. Ask her to come to Zenbi Palace to meet me. I won't see her tomorrow. But at your own risk. The dignified princess of Zenbi, who allowed her to return to the princess's mansion privately. Behind him, Nanbo trembled all over. The old body is trembling a little, and tilted his head slightly and looked at Michael's slightly childish face. My mouth feels a little bitter, although I don't know what the young master has experienced outside these years. But this domineering style, it seems that the Zenbi Palace was never at its most prosperous. Young master, Princess Tyler is your mother. Can't call her by name. Michael snorted coldly and walked out of the ancestral hall. Ando hurriedly chased him out. Young master, isn't it bad? Michael stopped. But how can ordinary incense be used to worship ancestors? Wait until I take the blood of trillions of creatures in the North Plains. Hundreds of thousands of mountains and tens of billions of demon clans or fires come again to offer sacrifices. The old butler Nanbo was stunned for a moment. He looked at Michael with complicated eyes. I just feel that this child has been quite abnormal since he came back. I guess it's because I've been hit hard in recent years. Maybe a little crazy. And I don't dare to be careless about the things arranged by Michael. He hurriedly went out to the eldest princess mansion. The princess's mansion is located inside the palace. It's not far from Zenbi Prince's mansion. The little old man walks slowly. The branches didn't arrive at the palace until the moon was over. The eldest princess was not seen after the guard at the gate passed the news. Just say it's getting late. The eldest princess has already rested. Come back tomorrow if you have something to do. Uncle Nan repeatedly emphasized that Michael was back, asking to see the eldest princess. But he couldn't even get through the palace gate. I had no choice but to sigh and leave. Danbo is back after a long time no see. Michael opened the door and planned to leave first. As the moment the door opens, the stone street suddenly became turbulent and fishy. The end of the road flooded by darkness. There is a young man standing with a gun. In the middle stage of face and soul, he violently rolled up the fallen leaves on the ground, smashing and flying in the air. At such a level of cultivation, he is already a peak elder even in King Shan. What is even more rare is that it appears in a young man. Anshin Captain Wookie, come here to invite the King of Zenbi back to the mountain. Michael yawned. He walked towards the second prince's residence on his own. There is a tigress in the mountains. No reply. The two figures are approaching. Wookie swung his spear in front of Michael. If you don't reply, we'll die. Your mother won't protect you. You should understand. Michael brushed his fingers over Wookie's spear. He ran up his arm and slapped him in the face with his backhand. Do you think King Zenbi is afraid of death? Watching Michael slowly walk away. Wookie's hand holding the gun trembled slightly. King Zenbi was too famous at first. There are many enemies. The moment Michael set foot in the Imperial City, a secretly planned assassination has begun. He didn't think Michael had any chance of survival, but at least not without the eldest princess taking action. His identity as a disciple of Wanda Osha Injianfing cannot protect him. Michael walked forward slowly. He is very slow. The street is quiet. So quiet that you can hear the footsteps on the house watching you. Really noisy. As when they were about to reach the second prince's residence, Michael suddenly stopped. He turned around and walked towards the Imperial City. The many monks following behind me looked pretty. Those who don't understand what this kid who has inherited the throne of Zenbi wants to do. Where is he going? He will die tonight. Akin does not need the Zenbi king who provokes war. Snort. Have you forgotten that there is no Zenbi king? The Ayuan demon cultivator has long been poisoned by tea in Zonyuan. Akin needs Zenbi king, but there is no need for such a weak Zenbi king. The people who are being followed and monitored come from several forces. Nature is at odds with each other. Everyone is covering their faces. Anyway, we don't know each other. Speak freely, naturally. Their steps are light, like a ghost in the dark night. They are all masters of hidden assassination. Just then, the person following me in front stopped. His face was full of confusion and confusion. How did he enter the palace? Snort. If you don't believe it, he will never come out. Actually, several spies did not dare to follow the palace. I can only watch that figure walking further and further away. Michael walked up to the palace guard. He glanced at Uncle Nan, who was dozing against the wall, and shook his head. Really depressed. A few little guards dared to stop the housekeeper of Zenbi Palace. Get out of the way. Michael roared. Anbo, who was so frightened that he was dozing off, yet suddenly jumped up. He hurriedly ran forward, with eagerness on his face. Ouch, young master. How did you come? A guard at the gate pointed his spear at Michael. There, who is coming? Dare to act recklessly in front of the palace. Michael squinted slightly. When he was a child, no one dared to stop him from entering the palace. Who doesn't know that he is the biological son of the eldest princess of Kinandi Shonbin, the king of Zenbi? A palace is just a back garden for him to play and hang out. These guards heard Uncle Nan calling him. They must have guessed his identity. How dare you block the door? He didn't take himself seriously at all. Cold, light out of sheath. Several heads flew high into the sky. These guards are only in the foundation building stage. A match for a mortal like him. They don't even need sword intent. Us relying on the sharpness of the second best sword in the world can easily crush him to death. Eldest Princess Mansion. A eunuch hurriedly rushed into the ticket office. In the palace, a beautiful woman is doing embroidery. She has a plump figure, wearing a gorgeous robe. Elegant temperament. The eyes reveal confidence and calmness. Every villi and every smile exudes a unique charm. As good. The young master came into the palace with his sword in hand. The woman gently put down her hands to embroider. He reached out and rubbed his eyebrows. And he spoke calmly. Don't worry about him. Kill the palace guards. Your Majesty will take care of it. After saying that, she picked up the needle and thread on the table again. The wave of his hand. The gates of the eldest princess's mansion are closed. I'm about to break through to the star-reaching realm. If it's not the fall of the Qing dynasty, don't come to me for other matters. Reaching for the stars with one hand. James Yon asked. What a wonderful world. Ridiculous mortal. But I always get caught up in worldly things. How ridiculous. Michael walked into the palace with his sword in hand. The situation inside the palace is very strange. Except for the few guards who are on duty just now. He saw no one else. Take a look at the eldest princess mansion. Michael snorted to Stephanie. Turn around and head towards the East Palace. The palaces along the road are extremely peaceful. It's like a quiet, forbidden place here. Can't see any danger but reveals murderous intentions everywhere. Michael drags the cold light behind him. Aware of sneak attacks in the dark. His hair is dancing. There are a few wisps floating in the air and I don't know where they are going. There is a guard in black blocking the way ahead. He holds a blue sword in his hand, wearing a devil mask on his face. Cultivation competition has reached the peak of Yuan Ying. I've stepped to becoming a god. A forbidden area of the East Palace ahead. Please ask the King of Zenbi to take another route. Michael snorted coldly. I've been to the Imperial Uncle's dragon bed. Where did this forbidden place come from? The top of the Golden Palace of the Royal Palace. The men were drinking wine and looking in the direction of the East Palace. The man in white asked the man in gold with great interest. He really rolled over on your bed. The man in golden robe was stunned for a moment. How'd it roll over? I even sealed him a big red envelope at that time. Boy Trundle, this is how you can give birth to a son. The man in white squirted out a mouthful of wine. This is how the co-authorship ended up on the dragon bed. Look. It's time to take action. The two of them put down a wine bottle at the same time. I saw bright sword light shining from the direction of the East Palace. Michael draws his sword. He's not very fast, at least compared to the Yuan Ying stage monks. It is as slow as a turtle crawling. The violent spiritual energy made his clothes rustle. The green sword was pointed directly at Michael's throat. The figure of the other person in the pupils seems to suddenly appear. The wind lowers. A strong wind suddenly arises in place. Countless sword energy whistling in the wind. Michael remained motionless as he watched the sword about to pierce his throat. With his speed, there is no need to dodge. Impossible to avoid. If I continued to take a step forward, you would definitely be cut into pieces by the sword energy like the wind. Madman. The guards in black sheathed their swords and retreated. Michael's lips curled up into a smile. The opponent missed the only chance to win. Please, welcome death. Finished speaking. The wind suddenly stopped. The man in black has a sudden heart attack. There seemed to be some unknown sword intent coming towards him. Can't see. He can't see anything. That kind of danger is always there. Alarm bells are ringing in my heart. Damn it. What sword is this? He used his whole body's cultivation to quickly escape to the East Palace. It's precisely because you can't see it that it becomes more dangerous. I don't know how to take the call at all. How to avoid. Your Highness, save me. Ardent cries for help echoed throughout the East Palace. Countless candles in the palace flickered out in an instant. Prince Noah stepped out of the East Palace in one step. He raised his finger to draw a spell in the air. It's just that the spell is only half drawn. Up, a running figure of the guard in black suddenly fell down, sliding far away on the ground. Noah's hand drawing the talisman trembled slightly and stopped. No Zenbi, hear my people at my door. Who gave you the courage? Michael asked instead of answering. There is no fear in the eyes. Your people are blocking my way. Who gave him the courage? Noah gritted his teeth. The murderous intent in his eyes is undisguised. But now I have lost my black-clad bodyguard. He has no confidence that he can escape from the opponent's hands. And now the Imperial Guard has made no move. The attitude of that 95-year-old Supreme Being is already very obvious. He chose to watch the excitement about King Zenbi. Let you do whatever you want. I originally thought it could be easily done by a mere mortal. I didn't expect it to be an evil Tsar. Dingrand erred to kill someone in the palace. I'm afraid I might hit a brick wall this time. A flick of the sleeves. Speak angrily. Okay. Say it. What do you want from me? Michael's eyes are calm. Speak softly. Those who follow me were arranged by you. No one naturally knows what the other person is talking about. He spoke angrily. No. Michael turned and walked out of the palace. The words came softly. Profound. That's okay. Snap. He spurted out a mouthful of blood, etched with 2 broken teeth. That's because of this problem. The Yuan Ying who he tried so hard to win over died at his peak. Too much bullying. It's just too much bullying. Right. I recently worked as a guard at Leon's house. Please give me some face and don't cause trouble. I like to be clean. Noah spurts out blood again. My eyes went dark and I fell straight to the ground. After a while, Michael walked to the intersection in the direction of Princess Mansion again. He looked at the closed palace doors with cold eyes. Sat for a long time. Cultivation. So wait until autumn comes. September, ATH. Horses step on the fairy cliff in the fairyland. Wait until I destroy this fairy world. I leave you without immortality. They all just farmed the land in the lower realm for me. After saying that, he no longer lingered. Turned around and walked outside the palace. Outside the palace, those who were following Michael have long since disappeared. I saw the sword light in the palace. I also heard the news brought from the palace. Naturally, I don't dare to stay any longer. Early morning. The sky is slightly bright. Mia opened the door and stretched. The red dress outlines charming curves. Yard. Michael squatted on the ground and stared at an oval pebble on the edge of the rockery in a daze. He looked sullen. There seems to be something in mind. But when I think about it carefully, I feel like I am in the clouds. Not visible. Mia quietly squatted next to Michael, frowning at the pebbles on the ground. She reached out and turned it twice. This is just an ordinary pebble. Smooth and white. Found everywhere. Lily also opened the door and walked out at this time. I looked up and saw 2 people squatting beside the rockery in a daze. He asked with a grin, Sister, are you 2 shitting? The door next to the room suddenly opened. Ucha and Neffy eyes big head stuck out. Eyes full of hope. Looked around. Bastard, I'll tear your mouth apart. The fight between the 2 siblings did not affect Michael at all. He was still looking at the pebbles in a daze. Leon's bedroom. The second prince who used to be under one person suddenly woke up from a nightmare. Ever since he lost power in the court, he has had trouble sleeping every day. I always feel like there's a knife on my neck. Will fall at any time. Nathan, In the dark corner, Nathan, a woman in red armor, walked out of it. She is the person Liam trusts most, staying in the palace all night. Your Highness, I don't know why. Liam frowned. Some things I can't understand. The exile of his party in the struggle, confiscating the house. Now the entire Imperial City is completely dark except for this mansion. I have no idea what's going on in the outside world. In the Immortal Dynasty, but many princes like him died silently in the mansion. Oh, wait, take me to meet the foreign aide invited this time. Now the Emperor may break through and enter the Tao at any time. Abdicate and enter the Immortal Forest. That was the real Cheng Feng Zuyu. I don't know how many people in this Imperial City will confiscate their homes and destroy their families. Into the other courtyard in a hurry. Long reed hair, wearing purple brocade. Looks very good. At Maple Valley would Chenefear. That is Arnus. Feel the Bikora of the opponent's golden elixir. Liam is overjoyed, nodding repeatedly. Worthy of being the genius of Red Maple Valley. The strength is really amazing. After a few pleasantries, he turned to look at Mia Lillian, his sister. And my heart is calmer again. Early stage of a golden elixir. But didn't the noble set have for geniuses here? I wonder where is another young hero now. Everyone in the courtyard looked at Michael squatting next to the rockery. Liam's expression froze. He saw Michael when he first entered. I also thought he was the servant who trimmed the gardens in Fuchu. Walked slowly behind Michael. He reached out and patted the latter's shoulder. And Michael slowly turned his head, with a slight smile on his face. I haven't seen you for a long time. Second cousin. Liam's outstretched hand froze in place. His face turned from joy to fear. I ran back a few steps with my feet. I almost fell to the ground. Although Michael's face has changed slightly now, there is still a bit of the same look as before. Of course, he recognized it at a glance. The second cousin, you seem to be afraid of me. Michael stood up, put your hand on Liam's shoulder. Don't be afraid. I won't eat you. Liam waved his hands repeatedly, ran out of the yard in panic. Among the 5 princes, this one is the most worthless one. The prince is cruel by nature, of a good natal family. There are many people who support him. The strength is also the strongest. The third prince relies on Isabella, a king's marshal. The strength is also very strong. Although the fourth prince does not have the backing of a powerful family, but the qualifications are Demon Lord, known as the first genius of the Qin dynasty. Now he is at the peak level of nascent soul. God be you on Shinyu Pass. As for the 5th prince, that little brat doesn't know anything. Live happily, nothing to do. Nathan didn't dare to arrange an escort mission for Michael after he knew his identity. He was happy to have some free time and just wandered around the Imperial City. The street is very lively, selling very few ordinary items. Most of them are immortality products. There are very few ordinary people who can live in this Imperial City, searching for the elixir that can restore vitality. But Michael couldn't help but lower his head and ponder. How can we solve the current situation? I finally installed a fake spiritual root and still can't practice. This is somewhat unacceptable. Yes, officer. Maybe the elixir you need can be purchased at Zhuanbao Lu. I heard that Zhuanbao Tower has countless miraculous medicines. Many of them have never been seen before in this continent. The hawker looked around, whispered into Michael's ear. It is rumored that Zhuanbao Lu sells things from Fairyland. Michael glanced briefly at the hawker's stall. An old man selling fried potatoes on the street. Outrageous rumors I heard somewhere. Difficult to ascend. The lower bound is more difficult. There is no way there is a lower realm of immortals in this world. And I have to go take a look at Zhuanbao Tower. Maybe there is something really needed. A walk through the bustling crowd. The road ahead is extremely wide. Pedestrians are also much looser. The shops here are no better than those in the streets just now. The decoration is extremely luxurious. Carved beams and painted buildings. Archery and flowing water. Like a spiritual tree. Like a fairyland scroll. Pink brick second floor. The young man who was leaning against the railing and drinking pointed at Michael with one finger, easing the woman in his arms with one hand. Look at that country bumpkin. I'm afraid it's my first time to fly to Fairyland. Everyone was dumbfounded. Michael looked up at him. This person is 2078. Build a foundation with good cultivation. At first glance, he looks like a powerful man in the family. But not stop. He continued walking deeper into the street. When passing by downstairs, a stream of wine spilled from the second floor. At Michael's shoulder, guest officer, come in and play. Old Tungsten greeted me in front of the small building. There were several women standing next to him. Scantily clad, rosy and charming face. Michael turned his head and glanced at his shoulders, which were wet with alcohol. No expression of joy or anger. Oh, this glass of wine. I'll treat you to a drink. Roaring laughter came from upstairs, and takes back the wine glass after filling up again. Put your hand out of the guardrail. Open your mouth and continue. Sprinkle again. There is no more. He was pouring drinks downstairs, while reaching out to rub the soft breasts of the beauty in his arms. The guards around him stared downstairs with their eyes like eagles gathering. The long sword in his hand hummed faintly. It seems like it will roar out in the next moment. Other guests in the building were far away from him. This is the legitimate son of Marshal Isabella, the biggest dandy in the imperial city. Drink spilled on Michael's long hair, hurling down drop by drop along the hair tips. He raised his arms slightly. His index finger took a drop of wine from the tip of his hair. Put it in your mouth and take a sip. Really good wine. Take a look at the small building archway. Yanju. The brothel has this name. I don't know which genius came up with the idea. Michael turned around and walked in. He's not a master who takes offense. Go straight to the second floor. Altonson hurriedly followed behind. Best officer, you are not allowed to enter as Yanju with a sword. Yes, officer. If you don't listen to advice again, I'm going to call someone. A long sword swept across. A flash of blood lit up on old Tungsten's neck. The head clanked and rolled down the exquisite wooden stairs. The gold and silver jewelry on my head fell to the floor. Killed someone. A girl screamed. Several women nearby fled out in a hurry. Michael sheathes his sword. Step onto the second floor. Caleb's guards heard the commotion coming back from the stairs. When Michael stepped onto the second floor, he already drew his sword at him. The fierce sword light is mixed with violent thunder and lightning. Arrive in an instant. But Michael turned sideways to avoid the vital point. The long sword brought up a trail of blood on his waist. The guard was about to draw his sword and strike across. I feel my body is weak. He looked down at his abdomen in confusion. I saw Michael's two fingers already inserted into his sea of energy. He strangled Yuan Ying tightly. Boom. The next second, Yuan Ying was forcibly crushed and exploded. And by the way, his body was also exploded into countless pieces of flesh. Michael shook his sword arm. Keep walking towards Caleb. The guard's blood was all over his face. Broken pieces of internal organs were still on the clothes. At this time, he was like an evil ghost coming out of hell. Nyla was so frightened that his face turned pale. What do you want to do? My father is Marshal Isabella. Michael grabbed Caleb by the neck. His foundation-building monk had forgotten to resist at this moment. Just when he raised his sword and was about to cut down the worker, a majestic voice came from deep in Yozyanju. Presumptuous. Who dares to make trouble here? Cold light flashed. Automatically protect Michael. The golden orbs hid the cold light sword, and there was a clear roar on the body. The person coming is an old man with white hair. Looks like he's dying. Michael squinted slightly. Deputy Commander Juan, you want to stop me? The old man was stunned for a moment, somewhat surprised to open back. Who are you? Young master. Michael crushed Caleb's neck. Throw him aside. I haven't seen you for a long time. Deputy Commander Juan is really lucky. A bloody battle in Biayuan. You're not dead. Maxon looked blankly at Caleb, who was thrown to the ground. This is the son of Marshal Isabella. Just kill him casually. Ouch. Young master, you got into trouble. He ran to Caleb in panic. Rushed to send spiritual and energy to the opponent. I hope it's not too cold yet. Isabella's cultivation reaches the sky, and he has hundreds of thousands of troops at his disposal. So now, Michael kicked the limb Caleb twice. Don't take it seriously. We are justified. Who are we afraid of? It was he who poured wine on me first. Jackson felt a little speechless. Is this a legitimate question? This breaks the sky. The four marshals of the country, even the royal family, do not want to easily turn against each other. If you are not careful, the world will be in chaos. Deputy Commander Juan, how come you are here? Don't tell me that you still come to visit brothels at your age. Jackson collapsed on the ground. Caleb is completely out of breath. This fairyland is Madam's property. The old guy and I will usually guard here for a while. Michael's eyes lit up. A cohort is my own stuff. No wonder the name is so elegant. Quite good. He immediately took out his storage bag. Whatever I like, I just put it in. Millions of spiritual stones on the books. Decorative spiritwood bonsai. No precious utensils are left behind. Jackson blocks everywhere, but it's just pretending. I just feel like Michael is preparing to run away and clearing up his troubles. Thinking about the scenery of Zenbi, Palace. How can you be afraid of a marshal who governs the country? Turned around. Michael looked at the only dozen girls left in the building and shook his head and sighed. They are all wearing fairy tresses and splendid dresses. It would be a pity to hang on them. Seeing that the situation was not going well, Jackson hurriedly stepped forward to stop him. Ouch, young master, are you going to escape? You can't carry a few oil bottles with you, but an escape. Michael doesn't understand at all.